We're Batman at 89.
Hello, and welcome once again to Batminute 89, the podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and Becky dies.
I'll give you that one, yes.
Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film, 1 minute at a time. And today we're brought to you by our sponsor, Smilex. Guys, I love Smilex. You know when you come home in the evening and you just want to laugh at something, but you don't have anything to laugh at? Smilex takes care of that for you. You can just be sitting there doing nothing, and all of a sudden, you laugh yourself to death. So if you want to go out in a happy way, go with Smilex today. So that's our sponsor, Smilex.
Woo! You forgot Squarespace as well.
Oh, yeah, Squarespace and Casper mattress, which is good to die from Smilex on. So, anyway, I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I'm the other one, John Parker. And I'm affecting this voice for the rest of the show.
Today, on Friday, we're our last spot with the magnificent Crystal Beth.
I'm here again. Yay!
Woo!
Thank you for having... Oh, claps. I love it.
Got into minute 54 of Batman. Minute 54 begins with the previously mentioned soon-to-be-dead Becky talking about violent allergic reactions. And then it ends with the Joker inviting us to take a blind taste test. So let's...
No, thanks.
No.
No.
Yeah, anyway, it was said, like, we get the continuation of Becky's line from yesterday that, like, there's a cause of death has been attributed to a violent allergic reaction. The thing is like, that's, you know, do allergic reactions tend to leave people with, like, big, hideous rictus grins? Is that a thing that, you know, I guess maybe it's just like, we just have no idea what this thing is. Maybe it was that, and that's the end of that story, you know? Or...
They do also say it could be drug use, which is quite, I mean,
yeah,
slightly different.
Mm. But you think they were like, well, I'm guessing maybe they just haven't, you know, because it's the 80s, they haven't had the time to you know, get into, you know, analyzing the blood samples yet. Presumably you'd be able to take, you know, what we're introduced to now this minute as Smilex. You'd be able to identify that in the bloodstream. But anyway.
Why wouldn't they have the time? Why would they not have the time? Are they too busy going to watch Pretty in Pink? Are they snorting coke?
It could be like literally like these people died like just before they came on air, and it's like, oh, these two models have died. We've just hauled their corpses up in front of a camera and taken a picture of them for it. Get it on the news.
They literally died 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's why they look so fresh.
Yeah. You want to get those corpses fresh.
Anyway, then we move over to Becky's co-anchor, Peter, which is, and he starts talking, and he, of course, brings up the bloody 20th or 200th anniversary again, because...
Again?
Yeah, the mayor's... and then he's talking about the mayor's plan to unveil something. What the hell's the mayor going... He's obsessed with this friggin' anniversary. The mayor planned to unveil a new hot dog and balloon stand. I guarantee that's what he was going to say. I guarantee it.
He loves parties. And what's a party without a hot dog and balloon stand?
Yeah, well...
It's true, it's true.
That's why all my parties are lame, is I always forget the hot dogs and balloons, but...
Actually, all your parties now tend to include a barbecue element. Yeah. So you're wrong. We supply our own hot dogs on your barbecue.
So you need to just up things now by like making people bring balloons next time. So.
Well, in this scene, in the original draft, though, these dead models that have been mentioned, they actually have a scene because Vicky's shooting them. You know, as a photographer, not with the guns. She's shooting them, and they start laughing like involuntarily to the point where they die. In fact, I've got a line here. It says, "The supermodels pitch to the floor, shuddering convulsively, their lips drawn back in frightful, frozen lab ape grins. Vicky gasps. Claire screams. Tony screams." I don't even know who Tony is. I don't remember him from the original draft. He's just a guy there.
Yeah.
A guy named Tony just screams.
Yeah.
Tony's in the background of every scene in the film. He's just knocking around. He's Vicky's BFF. Like, he's just perpetually there. Although that brings up a thing, like, I'm assuming that scene was cut for, like, you know, like, one, because of what we're about to see in this minute. I guess you don't really need to see the models die because you're about to see someone else die from Smilex, and it's just like, well, they'll be repeating the same exact thing over. And 2, it's kind of like, I thought, Vicky Vale was supposed to be, she was the award-winning, news photographer who did the Corto Maltese, and like the whole thing is she's working for the Gotham Globe, and it would be a bit like, well, why is she working? Why is she shooting fashion models now? Is this like a side gig? Is this like, oh yeah, I need to keep up payments on my cruddy several Chevrolet Citation or whatever she had. Like,
well, if you remember though, earlier on, Knox did. I thought it was a joke. He said to her, oh yeah, I know you from like shooting Cosmo and stuff, and we thought he was just making fun of her. But maybe she genuinely did used to do that line of work, and she's moved on into, I don't want to use this phrase, but like say proper journalism.
Yeah. Well, maybe she realized, or wasn't being fulfilled by what she was doing before, and she was getting paid to do all that, and she was proud of it. But then she was like, you know what? I want to actually change the world with what I'm doing. So
yeah,
let's do this.
So, but then maybe she needs some money. She's got a spare afternoon.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, maybe it was, like, angry shooting. Like, she went out and, like, had to, take her mind off Bruce Wayne jilting her. But, like, I'm going to go out and just, like, aggressively take photographs of models. But then at the same time, like, in the original drafts, all that whole Bruce Wayne line to Vicky thing doesn't happen. So it's like, well, no, it's just, she just does a bit of everything, apparently, in the original version of her.
Well, this co-anchor as well, I saw he's called Peter, I don't know how you pronounce this now, you're going to have to help me here. Peter McElroy?
McElroy. Yeah, that's fine.
And he's played by Bruce Maguire. What? The Irish names everywhere. What's going on? What are you people doing?
Yeah, but he's got another weird, like, because, I mentioned that on the original draft, Becky was called Patsy, even though the same last name. And then he apparently was Dave McElroy. And it's like, what is it? Tim Burton's like, no, I don't like this Patsy and Dave business. No, we're going to have to change that. It's like, he's like, I used to date a Patsy. I'm not going back. I'm not going down that road, man. Never again. Not me. Never Tim.
Now, this guy, though, he's in a lot of stuff. When I was looking through his history on IMDb and whatnot, he's in a lot of movies, but they're mostly things I've not seen.
Yeah.
Although he was in a film called From Beyond, which looked very interesting. It was a Lovecraft story, I think.
Oh, I know From Beyond quite well. It was like Stuart Gordon and Jeffrey Combs' kind of follow-up to Reanimator. And if you like Reanimator, you'll like From Beyond. But it's... the most memorable thing about it that I can remember is that they call him Ken Foray, who was, you remember Keenan's dad in Keenan and Kel?
Oh, yeah.
Roger Rockmore? He's in it.
Yeah.
And you get to see him fighting monsters and wearing very, very tight underwear. Like nothing but very, very tight underwear.
Woo!
And it's him jumping into water, wrestling with things, getting very wet, and very, very tight underwear. So if that's your kind of thing, then... From Beyond, it actually is a great film as well. It's like it's just another kind of Stuart Gordon Lovecraftian gore fest, and full of goop and whatnot. So it's
Bruce Maguire though, he is also in Robot Jocks, which I have not seen, but I have seen the Red Letter Media review of it, and it looks incredible. It's been on my to-watch list for about 2 years now. I need to actually get around to this.
Is this like a spin-off of RoboCop, or what was...
Yeah. It looked like a sort of... I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head, but it's a kind of post-apocalyptic world of robot sport fighting, giant robots. And it was very cheap, but they've done the best they can with no money. Yeah. Like... it's still stop motion, but it's quite well done. Like, they've put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, fair play. Fair play to them. There's a thing, I'm going to go back to Bruce Maguire / Peter / Dave in a minute, because there's a point of contention I have here with this minute that I was like, I want to clear it up. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But anyway, we get talk then of, like, he starts... You're talking about, like, three additional deaths have happened now. We get Becky and the other screen. This is actually really well done. She's just looking very unsettled and kind of, slightly worried, like messing with her hair. And then she bursts out with a little bit of laughter. And then
it makes it look. Gives the first illusion that it actually is an allergic reaction to something, because you can see that she's unsettled by something in her body first. So it's like something's happening in her body where she's like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. But then she starts laughing and you're like, wait, maybe she's not uncomfortable because she's laughing.
Oh.
But it's the most inappropriate time to laugh, though. It's like, oh, 3 people have died. You know,
Yeah.
It's and then a good shot then of the director. Well, I have to say, like, I wanted to bring up his fashion choice here before because he's got leather jackets, denim shirt with the collar popped over the jacket, and then like a gray polo neck jumper. And it looks like this guy is like, there must be freezing in the studio or something because he is layering it up, man.
Right.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't know about new studios, but when I'm doing the podcast, I'm warm. Like I'm just gonna wear a t-shirt. I'm not wearing 4. He's probably got a bloody vest on under there as well.
Yeah,
He's got
right.
4 layers, you know.
But that's a really 80s thing as well because I always remember you see things like you could make an excuse in like the Breakfast Club when like, oh, John Bender's wearing all these layers because he had like a big long coat on, then a denim jacket, and then a friggin' lumberjack shirt and all this underneath, and then like, seemingly like long johns under that and everything. But it's like, oh, I guess because he's kind of like he might have been staying out of the house trying to keep away from his father and stuff. Maybe he just takes all his clothes with him. But I do always remember in like the video for Born in the USA, and Springsteen, he's wearing like a leather jacket, and then he's got a denim jacket on top of it with the sleeves cut off.
On top?
Yeah, with the sleeves cut off, so the leather's coming out.
Wow.
And it's like I've seen that in other 80s things as well. It's like, yeah, people just used to love the denim jackets under other jackets. Just throw denim in anywhere. It's like, it's a jacket, right? Like it's it's not a shirt, guys. But
Yeah, but the 80s approach was as much denim as you can possibly fit on your body.
Yeah, I had a manager at my work who just only owned denim.
Did they rock the double denim, the denim
Yeah.
jacket and the jeans at the same time?
A rich man would just old denim shirts, denim jeans, denim coat, boots.
I seen a little smidge last night because it just flashed back to me there. I was flipping around the TV and I landed on What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt.
Oh God!
And
Oh my gosh.
there's a bit when like their boss, who's played by Alan Alda, comes in, and he's like, he's supposed to be the rich guy in charge of the the fashion magazine or whatever they're working at, and he's got like shirt with a tie, proper like tweed jacket, and then incredibly bright jeans, and everything's tucked in, and it's just and then these big like big Timberland boots, and it's like, this looks terrible. Like what? This guy's supposed to be the head of a fashion magazine. What's going on, man? But
I get the impression this guy here on Batman, he probably tucks into the jeans. He looks like a tucker.
I think, this is the 80s was an age of tucking. I think it was just like everything got tucked in everywhere. As we were saying with the one of the previous scenes with Bob, we had like his jumper tucked into jeans, and it's like, and the jeans were like way up, the belt was around his friggin' nipples and stuff. It was like,
Well, actually, I had one thing to say here. Sorry, the co-anchor, Peter. Now, with Becky, he looks kind of annoyed with her for laughing. Like, I mean, come on. Surely you can tell something isn't right. Get her some help. He just looks, pissed off.
yeah. I think I do think this is actually from Hollaback Girl, the kid Hollaback. Like this is actually like this is actually a really good bit of like, for such a small part, it's a really good bit of acting. Because she does the burst of laughing,
Yeah.
and then it's the kind of unsettled, like she's just like, what's happened to me? Like I didn't want to do that. It just came out, and now she's genuinely a bit freaked out of like what's happening to me. And it's like it's really really nice subtle acting work. And actually looking now at the still, there is a ring on the finger. So
Yeah.
is that because I'm not good with which finger is supposed to go? Is that the wedding ring finger or?
It looks like it. I was looking at it when we were talking about it last minute.
So
And
yeah. I think you're
she's
right.
definitely married.
yeah, so presumably that she's that Narita's not her her maiden name anyway.
Look at that. Biracial marriages. Good job, Batman.
Yeah, for 89, that's quite progressive.
I've also noticed this mammoth jacket that we've been talking about. Now I got it frozen. She's got like the buttons on her sleeve, 3 black buttons on one sleeve, and then a black, gray, and a white button on the next. So I'm not too sure what happened there. If that's the way it came, or she's had to like, even though if you had to like do that yourself, you'd think like, oh, I'm gonna go on TV in this jacket. I better make sure they all match. But maybe this is par for the course with Becky. It's just like, oh, she does laugh in the middle of news reports and everything. Like, that's why Peter's so annoyed at her. He's just like, oh, this again. She can't get the buttons right in her jacket. She's laughing and doing things. Oh, this woman's a nightmare.
Yeah, he doesn't expect what happens. Oh.
Yeah, but also, though, we get the nice reaction shot of the director again. And
it's a good reaction, too. Like a little confused.
That's a real... You can see the almost see the fish hook coming in to arch his eyebrow for him kind of thing.
Right? I also love how self-conscious... I mean, like, Peter looks like he gets so self-conscious because she starts laughing and he's like, what? Hey! And then he realizes something's wrong.
I also noted in the back as well, because we were talking about how like cheap the set looked. And if you look behind the director, I noted that you can see that he... not quite this shot, but one of the earlier shots, I should have brought it up then, really, is that it's a little postcard of, like, it looks like an apple with the Statue of Liberty in it. And that's the same postcard that appears in Knox's notice board in the background. So I think they've just taken the same things and just, like, put them up in the background. No one's going to notice that. No one's going to go through this film minute by minute.
That's a stupid thing to suggest, Niall. What are you talking about?
Peter tries to proceed, and then, of course, Becky goes into a proper full-on chortle, I suppose you would call it, really. It's a real layered guffawing kind of laugh. Again, Peter seems like quite visibly irritated with her. And though that was the thing then, because the director then says, oh, Barry, what's going on out there? And I thought, like, who's he talking to? Because he's the director. He can't be talking to Peter because Peter's called Peter. And I was like, maybe he thought, that, like, oh, this was a flub, and it was actually talking to the actor, but the actor's called Bruce. So...
Yeah, I think it's just the cameraman.
Yeah, but you think, like, I guess it's maybe like a floor manager or something, or...
Yeah, you've got to have someone out there on the floor.
Yeah, the whole names in this section, this minute, I was very confused about, because I was trying to find this guy's actor name, and I was like, wait, no, so they switched over to his name, but they're calling him a different name. And I was like, I give up. I'm just going to call him Peter.
Yeah, that'll do. That's enough.
To be fair, though, the Batman wiki does have, like, we were tracking down, like, hood and yellow trench coat at one point. Like, we had, like, they had things on everybody. It was shocking. Like, if you can figure out who they are, there will be a wiki page on them. So,
well, here, as they cut the cameras off and rush to help Becky. In the original draft, I love the way they write this part here, because it's slightly different. I just love the words they use. It's so poetic. Because I will do a reading. Here we go. It says, Patsy has gone into convulsions. The camera whips violently right and left as she jerks out of her seat and totters uncontrollably across... Give me a second. Uncontrollably across the set, laughing insanely. Technicians rush the soundstage in an unrehearsed frenzy. Patsy spins like a dervish and lurches backwards over the news desk in a death spasm, giving us a quick look at the grisly Joker's grin etched on her now lifeless face. It's like, oh, that's horrible.
I will also give props to any use of the word dervish. So I'm happy that got in there. That's great.
It's a strange choice of words. Yes, in the finished product, she doesn't so much do that kind of emotion.
Yeah. Although the thing is, in the finished product, they kind of give it a bit of a comedic tinge because her feet come back up, which is a bit bit silly. Then it's like, well, yeah, I mean, this is horrible, but it's also kind of funny, like seeing the.
It made me think of the Wizard of Oz with the feet and the curling up.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, of course, then we get the dramatic command from the director of kill the camera, which is like, oh, that's this guy means business here. This seems to be a pretty quick death for Becky. Like, whatever the Smilex does is like, oh, you always think like, oh, the Joker venom is what, commonly called in the comics and stuff. It's like, oh, you laugh yourself to death, which is a horrible death. You're talking, Crystal was talking the previous minute about like the pain of laughing just too much in general. But to laugh yourself to death is like, oh, that'd be absolutely awful. But it seems like it's a couple of seconds and she's gone. It really reminded me of, like, as we always bring up quite frequently, Mask of the Phantasm, and there's a great bit of they show you like the effects of the Joker venom, and that's when the Joker's talking to a character, and it's very atmospherically done of him Like he kind of pins him down on the table, and you see the silhouette over him, and then closes in on the Joker's mouth laughing. And it cuts to the hospital, and to the guy in the hospital bed still laughing away, and all the doctors trying to hold him down and inject him and stuff. And eventually, like they eventually kind of get him settled and stuff. But then Batman comes in, like when they leave, and the guy's just trying to sleep, and Batman comes in to interrogate him. And as soon as he starts talking, he just starts laughing again. And the entire interrogation, the guy's sitting holding his head, kind of trying to get it out, and like little giggles and stuff coming. And then at the end, Batman kind of loses the rag with him, leaves the room, and the scene ends then the guy just busting out laughing again, and all the doctors have to come back in and hold him back down again. And that was like a really chilling version of like, that's how bad the Joker Venom is supposed to be. And it's
Jesus,
like, yeah,
mother of God.
And that's the cartoon film they made for kids. Like that's it. And you got the shit. Yeah, we're shoving that in. That's how you laugh yourself to death, kids. That's.
Yeah, I want to see someone like crawling along the floor, clutching at themselves, but they're laughing. They can't stop.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be grisly.
And we got a whole DC universe coming up now. It could be a time for.
Oh, that's crazy.
For Smilex to make a return. So
I'm sure they'll ruin it somehow.
Right, of course.
But yeah, this Jared Leto's version of the Joker just puts metal grills on your teeth for some reason. But anyway, so we got everyone rushing out, and we got Renee on the news floor, who was the one person couldn't find any information on Renee. I thought she would.
Same.
She's not on the IMDb list. She doesn't have her own wiki page. It's like she gets her name. She gets a name and a line. Hood and yellow trench coat didn't even get that. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, not only does she get a name and a line, it's almost specifically made for IMDb. She goes, "This is Renee on the news floor."
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I'm going to Google. Renee on the news floor.
Unless she's like, she was ashamed. It's like, I don't want to be. I'm more than just Renee on the news floor. Take it off. I'm also like Jane from the stall or something. Like whatever. What other part she's playing?
She could be like a Shakespearean actress, and she's like, I don't want to be associated with that bit work I did for, half an afternoon.
Yeah, no, could be. But I'm sure as long as she's probably pretty happy. They get paid, to be fair. But as is the way of the world. Anyway, as after this end, other things start appearing as everyone rushes in to see what's happening with Becky, and we get the screens turn to static, and then it comes in with a very jaunty little theme. A theme that I was pitching that we use as the theme for our show, actually. But then we were really terrified of like what happens if Danny Elfman just lands on us with like a giant lawsuit or something.
Oh God, yeah. That's always a scary thing.
We were concerned, and if we used any Prince music, we're like, oh, the estate's gonna call it.
Prince was completely out of the conversation. It's like Danny Elfman might. Prince's estate definitely would. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we get again. It's really going above and this is like we were mocking Jack Nicholson for all his sitting. Pretty energetic in this bit though. He's at the legs kicking out here and there, going down a shopping aisle with his shopping cart, and announcing new and improved Joker products.
New and improved Joker products.
Yeah. It's of course he's got the cardboard cutouts of Candy Walker and Amanda Keeler right there next to him, which would be like, oh, this is like what a horrible thing he's done if the news hadn't already shown you their goddamn corpses, so you knew who they were. But
well, that's the thing. I always thought, well, maybe the Joker's trying to trick people into using his product, and selling it to people. But the fact it's called, well, he says there's a new ingredient, Smilex.
Yeah.
And you've just seen these horrific, laughing, smiling deaths. I think anyone would put two and two together and realize, oh, this is a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to fall for this ad, are they? And going to buy them. And what does he mean now with Smilex? New and improved? Because it makes it sound like there was a previous version of the product.
Well, I think it's because, as we find out in the upcoming minutes, it's like it's in everything.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was assuming.
Yeah, he's improved the products by adding this new ingredient of Smilex, and you don't know where it is. You don't know what.
I hate the term new and improved.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it new or is it improved? Is it old and you've improved on it, or is it new?
Yeah. And it's also
Pick
like,
one.
well, what was wrong with it before? Like, I'm suspicious. Like, when I go to a restaurant and it says, under new management. It's like, why?
Yeah, not always the best thing.
That's kind of the indication.
No.
Like, this was terrible, but now it's now it's good.
Trust us, it's fine.
But this shot, though, of the Joker coming down here reminds me of... I'm sure there must be an American equivalent, but There's a TV show in the UK called Dale's Supermarket Sweep, where it has like it's a daytime TV program for like little old ladies, basically. And it's just, it's a game show, and you have to run around and take things off the aisles and stuff. And I'm certain there must be an American equivalent of it because it's very, very popular. But like it's like the Joker himself is like the exact opposite of like the host of that, Dale Winton, is an incredibly, like, he's almost Donald Trump level painted orange. So it's like, it's kind of like a weird, it's a bit like Supermarket Sweep, except he's exactly the opposite in terms of skin tone. Like he's just like as pale as you get, this guy. So
after you mentioned it, Niall, I looked it up, and it was in fact originally an American show, also called Supermarket Sweep, and it started in 1965.
Loved Supermarket Sweep.
Hey.
Supermarket Sweep, and there was another one that was on at that time, like Shop. Oh, I can't remember, but they were on one after another, and I was like, oh my God, anytime they came on, and I was like, run faster! Oh, I would get so crazy, and I would be in the grocery store at my local grocery spots and be like, okay, so if I needed to get stuff, this is the order I would do it in. Oh, those were the best.
I'm glad it wasn't just me then, running around the shops going, quick, quick, quick. And it was always the kind of thing I would watch as well when I was off school because I was sick. Because it was always on at like sort of 9 a.m. So you'd be up because you'd have to pretend like, I'm going to get up, I'm going to try and go into school, and then wait for your parents to go, oh no, you don't look well, you can't go. So you'd be up and you'd be waiting, and it would come on. So it just makes me think about being off school but also being sick, which isn't the best association.
It's always those programs always had like an extreme allure, because like those are the shows you didn't get to see normally because you were in school. And then as soon as you you graduated and you were just in university and just had like you could watch, or even university, or just whatever you were doing after school, and these shows were just on, and you just realize like how terrible they were, because it's like, now that I can just watch them anytime, it's like it's just lost all its appeal. Like
The Price is Right was the big one. Or Nick Jr. I watched Nick Jr. And now when I watch those shows, I associate them with sickness. So I feel gross when I watch them.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah, there's a show on like the children's channel, like the basic. So we did, like, back when I was a kid, we didn't have cable or satellite TV or anything. And there was a show called The Family Ness. And the only time I've ever seen that show was when I was sick. I don't think it was ever shown at any other time of the day. So even like years later, it's just like, I only ever saw like 7 episodes, because it was always on when you were sick, and then it just wasn't on at all. So although it had a great theme tune.
But if you try and watch it on YouTube now, you just vomit all over the place.
It's true.
I just would feel weird watching it out of bed. It's just like, oh no, it's just... But yeah, of course, we get the announcement of the new and improved Joker products with a brand new secret ingredient, Smilex, which is a notable change from the original draft, because in that it was called Smilenol.
Yeah, which
isn't as good, because as we know, if you add X to anything, it makes it cooler. So Smilex sounds way better.
X gon' give it to you,
Yeah. Also, I'm going to study with this old guy, Professor Xavier. Oh, he sounds lame. Oh, he's actually called Professor X. Oh, he sounds awesome. It's just like just an instant jump in quality just by having the X emphasized.
The X-Men. Vin Diesel, Triple X.
Exactly.
It's cool. It's extreme. Well, I mean, I was going to ask, do you know why they changed this? Because I couldn't find out a reason. So I started researching drugs with these suffixes at the end to see if there's any sort of correlation between it, but no, I couldn't get anything.
I'm standing by my theory. You add X to something, it sounds cooler. I guess as well, because X... Cooler. Plus, it also makes it sound kind of like, you get things... kind of toxic waste and things like that. You think of like X, things that are forbidden. You'd have an X painted on them or something, maybe. So it could be like, it's to indicate that it's dangerous. Because Smilenol sounds like a mouthwash, but Smilex sounds a bit sinister. It sounds a bit more like, well, what's because the word toxic has a big X in it, so it's kind of like, oh, maybe that's what they were thinking. Like, oh, it just sounds worse for you, kind of thing.
It must be something like that, because with Smilenol, the only thing I could think of was Tylenol, obviously the drug. But that's just like a pain reliever, isn't it?
Right. And you would think you wouldn't want that because you don't want it to be associated. You don't want people to think of pain when you're about to kill them is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I guess it fits, but it takes away the, it sounds too much like a real thing.
Maybe the Tylenol people contacted them and said, this is too similar. Like it's gonna put bad associations on our product.
It could be then like the Windex people were like, oh, wait a minute, we don't want to be associated with that either. But it's like, because apparently James Stewart works for Windex. But it could have been like, yeah, but nobody, if you drink Windex, it'll kill you. So
You've got to do a Jimmy Stewart impression now every episode, Niall. Come on.
it's just like, well, I guess that's okay. But as long as no one is not saying the product's bad, I guess that's fine.
That's too good.
But yeah, then of course we get another shot of the director, the not Tim Burton director. It should have been Tim Burton. But
these days it would be with bloody Stan Lee.
Yeah, he does a kind of like he's just dumbstruck by what he's seeing. Something's hacked in, and this is like one of the Joker's prime things. He always does this, and I think even the first issue the Joker appeared in, he hacked into the radio to tell people what he was going to do. And a thing we'll be talking about very much next week, the comic this is inspired by, the Laughing Fish. He hacks into the TV signal and he takes over. And you even remember in like the Dark Knight, he's sending things into the news station to show them, like, and then he's calling in to the news station to tell them what he's doing. So it's kind of like it's one of the things that really marks him out as like, different from the villains they had before in terms of like, gangsters. It's all under the table. It's all clandestine criminality. Like you're not seeing. Like this guy is outright coming out and saying, "This is what I'm gonna do. Here I am." It's gone now from when he killed mobsters right out in front of City Hall so everyone could see him, and they still were talking about Batman. So this is him wanting, all right, it's the Joker is obsessed with himself. He's very, very vain and narcissistic, and plus the fact he's got his friggin' face on everything. So this is another testament of like, oh yeah, he's hacked into the TV to make sure everyone is watching him. They know it's new and improved Joker products. And so it's just like he's making sure that he is the center of attention this time. So
yeah.
Afterwards, the news reports Batman hacked into the newscasters and he's going on about clown or something. Holds up the bottle. Great shot of him actually doing like the Smilex.
Oh yeah, he's putting a lot of effort in there because he's a great actor, but obviously he doesn't need to put the effort in. He's Jack Nicholson, damn it. He could turn in the worst performance ever and we'd just buy it still. But he is putting the work in.
And this is, I knew it would happen eventually, and you do see it if you freeze on him doing the Smilex bit. I've always been concerned with, like, that white makeup and the fact that his collars are so tight. I was like, that makeup's going to rub off on his collar. And you can see on his collar, there's a smudge of white makeup. It's like, oh, it happened. It finally happened. So.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that. Oh, my God. It's come off his neck.
Oh, yeah. I had to check it out, too.
But, and then, it's... the director is kind of asking, like, oh, what is it? What's going on? And then we get the Joker announcing, like, now over to our blind taste test. And then we cut out just before, like, one of the most iconic lines of the whole film. But we will talk about that next week. Unfortunately, Crystal won't be here to talk about that. But,
I know, I miss it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can send in an audio clip of you responding to it and we'll splice it in. It's fine.
Oh, perfect.
But in terms of action for this minute, I think I'm noted out. Unless you two have anything you want to chuck in before we wrap up.
I think we said everything that I had to say.
Yeah, what we customarily do, and I think pretty much every one of these podcasts does, is before we go on our last minute here with you, though, is there anything you'd like to say about your history with the movie or Batman in general? I know you mentioned having the box set. In a prior minute.
So basically every movie that I've ever seen was because of my dad, and he got me the box set of these DVDs back when DVDs didn't have the close on their own thing. They had the side that you would flip open and you would open it up like a book, and they were cardboard. Didn't happen for very long, and not many of them had it, but this set of Batman DVDs did.
Whoa.
And because we had gone to see Batman and Robin in the theater. And I was like, Batman's awesome! And I started watching all of them, and I really loved George Clooney as Batman. And then I watched Michael Keaton as Batman, and I was like, I don't really like this. And then watched Val Kilmer, and I was like, oh, he's better. And then as I got older, I was like, George Clooney sucks. And I started to learn more about Batman and what it was and reading some of the comic books. I don't read that much DC, though. I prefer Marvel.
How dare you.
I know. It's such either side of the things. DC's too dark for me. I'm like, gotta get over it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, there's still pieces of history, and I will read my detective comics every once in a while. I tried the New 52 Batman, and I couldn't get into that either. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to pry myself. As I'm looking up right now at all my Marvel comic books up on my shelf, I'm like, stay with those babies.
They feel that you've betrayed them.
Yeah, they were like...
By coming on here.
Exactly. Well, that's what I said when I was on DC Cinematic Minute as well. I was like, I don't have as much of a background as I do with Marvel and specifically X-Men. But I read more indie comics, so... things like Saga or like Brian K. Vaughan, all of his stuff, BKV.
Yeah.
I love Batman. Basically, any superhero. It's such a fun thing to think about and talk about and do. Be a superhero.
Well, I always find Batman as well is kind of separate from others because I don't see him as a superhero as such. He hasn't got superpowers. He's just a guy who wants to do right. Yeah. And that's what's interesting to me. He's not like Superman who can just do everything, because I find that a bit boring. It's like, Superman's going to get out of the situation. He'll just invent some crazy new way, like new power. But Batman can't do that.
But so as well as the thing too of like I think of Batman always stands a little separate because you had these Batman films that were so independent from everything else for so long. So you kind of grew up with knowing like, oh yeah, Batman's a separate entity, and then maybe in like, the cartoons, it's like, oh yeah, Superman show up. And it was only then in like the 2000s when they had like, it's the Justice League. So if you weren't familiar with the comics, Batman was his kind of his own thing. So he still does, because he's such a loner character, he does kind of tend to, stay away from teams and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Even though he's always like, oh, I work alone. And he has like one of the biggest extended families in the comics and stuff. It's like, oh, everyone hangs around with this guy. But he's like, no, I work alone.
Well, Crystal, do you actually now have a favorite Batman?
They're all... it's hard. They all have a different place in my heart. Because I have George Clooney, which was my first Batman. Michael Keaton, I think, is good. Val Kilmer, I think, is good. And then Christian Bale is... I think he plays the dark of it better for me. I get so annoyed by his Batman voice, though.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The most irritating thing about that is the fact that Batman Begins, he's actually doing like a kind of Michael Keaton-esque voice that's fine. And then he just, in The Dark Knight, he's just turned into this the whole time. It's like, go back to what you were doing before. What the hell are you thinking, man?
I think the implication's meant to be he's got a kind of voice changer, hasn't he? But it doesn't really go into that. I'd like to see that in action so I know, he's not just doing a stupid voice. That's fine. He's like manipulated his voice.
Well, it's like that's very apparent with the Ben Affleck version. It's like he does have like an electronic little sort of tinge to his voice, which was it reminded me because I actually watched it the other week as well. That one of the myriad things that's never explained in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze is that the Shredder shows back up. And he's got like an electronically modulated voice, and it's like, why? Like, he's not got anything in that mask that's doing. He's not trying to hide his identity. Everyone knows who he is. So it's like, why have they tinged his voice this way? And
After the first one, his larynx was crushed. Niall, come on.
Well, he comes back in. That could be, but he shows back up in that trash heap, and it's just like, although I think I even put up in the Turtles Minute, but Crystal was just on with them there the other week.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, but
they were
actually
great.
put on their listener society. It's like, how long between films? Because it's like, it seems like April's got this new apartment. Well, she's changed into another woman for one thing. She just mutated. She mutated into a completely different person, and then like she's obviously got this new apartment because her old place was trash, and it looks like they've been there a while. And then Shredder's just woken up from in the rubbish tip, and it's like, has he been out there like over a week, or how long has he been there? You know, it doesn't. But then if you start getting into like the problems of that film,
Yeah.
you'll be there a while. So plus it's not our film to talk about. Like that's their...
Check that podcast out. But that movie's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, and the first one's great as well. So and yeah, the second one has Vanilla Ice in it. So I think we were talking about Vanilla Ice on the show the other day. It was back when Kit was on. We had on the tangent about Cool as Ice, which is a film dying for the movies by minute treatment. I think really. But
well, speaking of Cool as Ice, before we head off into the dark night, would the Cool as Ice Crystal Beth like to promote anything of hers?
Sure. You can follow me on social media at the Crystal Beth, and you can listen to my podcasts, The Fifth Eleminute and Unlimited Lives Radio, on iTunes.
Hey, and check them out because they're all fantastic. Who doesn't love gaming as well? If you don't like gaming, you can just stop listening to this podcast now.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring it up about 50 times. Yeah. That's like all I do, watch movies, play games. So
Yep. Same.
Yeah. Get on board. Listen to Crystal's shows. All brilliant. And listen to our show when we will be back next Monday. Believe it or not. Yes, that's the same schedule we've had this entire time. Yeah. So join us again on Monday, and we will have minute 55 of Batman. And get in touch with us on Facebook at the BatMinute89 Listeners Society, or on Twitter at BatMinute89. And we're also on Instagram and Tumblr. You can look us up there. Join us again on Monday for more BatMinute89.
Next time, it's Fun in the Sun with the man with no tan, as the Sultan of Chicanery soothes in the sand and shares his psychotic scheme. Which stupefied spectator will stare at his screen in stunned silence? Find out next week. Same Bat Pod.
Different Bat Minute.